But they're actually real, we both really like it.
That was the most effective gavel wrapping that I've had an opportunity to do. So anyway, I would like to welcome everyone to the Wednesday, November 13th, 2024 meeting of the CCWD Board of Directors. Would you all please rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, would you please call the roll, Rebecca?
Okay, Director Underhill, here, just turn on your microphones. Director Ratterman,
Here.
Director Cicada,
Here.
President Thomas,
I'm here.
and Director Davidson is absent today.
All right,
If he wins an election, then doesn't have to come to the meetings.
good point. All right, item number 2 is public comment. And as you know, at this time, members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized item. Those members of the public are encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda that they would like to discuss. No action can be taken on matters not listed on today's agenda, and comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. So do we have any public comment? I see a Francisco eliminated.
What? Also, good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies.
Good
Can you
afternoon.
hear me?
Did you say eliminated?
That's what it sounded like. Illuminated, I think.
Illuminated. Well, it's unfortunate that Director Davidson is not there in person, but I will congratulate him nevertheless, as well as Director Ratterman on the 2 election wins. And would like to remind both of them that we're still going to be around working on the priorities that they identified in the campaign. One of them, Director Davidson's key priority was the FERC relicensing agreement. And to those, we're going to add focus on non-revenue water. I'm sure that term is familiar to you all. And cost of service reconciliation with the new rates, the cost of labor, and still the operating efficiencies and metrics. So we look forward to working with the newly reconstituted team in the coming 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Francisco. Anyone else either here or online wishing to make a public comment? All right, seeing none, let's move on to item number 3, the consent agenda. Following items are expected to be routine or non-controversial. Items can be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member may request that any item be removed for later discussion. We have 3 items here listed: approval of the minutes, review the board of directors' monthly timesheets, and ratify claim summary. Number 632.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda. I just want to make a comment that there's a couple items that I'm going to have be brought up at the finance committee meeting. Okay.
And
then
the finance committee meeting, I understand, has been
we
canceled.
canceled it for this month, but we should have one next month, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll second and comment.
Mhm.
Okay, I have a series of items on the claim summary that I, really want to question, but today's not the day. We're celebrating.
So we can take those offline or at the.
At the finance
Yeah,
committee meeting,
This
save it for
claim
that.
summary comes
Okay.
back to the next
All right.
finance committee. meeting.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So would you please poll the board?
Okay, Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
President Thomas.
Yes. All right, item number 4, new business. We have an appreciation resolution honoring Scott Lunsford for 25 years of dedicated service with CCWD. And Damon, I understand you're going to make some comments about this.
Thank you, President Thomas, directors. So real quick, so I think it was 2005. I was a brand new operator. Working down at the Jennyland Water Treatment Facility with a gentleman named Dave McGeorge. And we were in the middle of quite a heat wave. And we had water supply from A tank to B tank conveyed through a, what is that pipeline now? 8-inch pipeline? So by the time 1,000 gallons a minute left A tank and it got to B tank, it was like 200 gallons a minute feeding the tank because so many people were drawing off that supply. And so we were losing B tank. And in an effort to try to keep B tank from going dry, Scott came down from the pass. It was my first time ever meeting you. And you were like, what do I need to do? How do I need to help you guys? And we literally spent 12 hours going door to door, asking people to conserve water. And so right off the bat, my introduction to Scott Lunsford was that this guy is just top notch, just, whatever needs to be done for CCWD, he's going to do it. And he was there. And throughout this time period, obviously I left, I came back, same person, just a rock. And so hats off to you, Scott. What an amazing person you are and what a career you've had here as an operator for CCWD. With that, I'm going to read a resolution. You can feel free to stand if you like, but resolution of the Board of Directors of the Calaveras County Water District recognizing Scott Lunsford. Whereas Scott Lunsford faithfully served the ratepayers of Calaveras County Water District for 26 years. And whereas Scott became a CCWD employee on March 16th, 1998, hired as a meter reader before transitioning to that of a treatment plant operator and working in various capacities his entire career with CCWD, including senior supervisor for water treatment for 6 years. And whereas during Scott's employment with the district, he experienced significant change and always focused his efforts on providing the best water quality to the Ebbets Pass community and the Sheep Ranch community through great and horrible weather. And whereas Scott's devotion to his community is unfailing and is represented in his dedicated, responsible operation and management of the Hunters Water Treatment Plant. Scott even accomplished the death march in 4 feet of snow from the White Pines barn to the sawmill tank. And whereas Scott played an instrumental role in the effective design and implementation of many Ebbets Pass improvement projects, including multiple tank replacement projects, Reach 1, Reach 3A, the Hunter Surge Tank Project, and the Hunter's Filter Rehabilitation Project. And whereas Scott became a respected mentor and teacher to less experienced operators, and Scott's sense of humor echoed throughout the district and made the job fun. And whereas Scott always worked to help in any way he could for the greater good of the district, including going door to door in Rancho Calaveras in 2006 to request conservation when B tank was going dry. And whereas Scott was known to enjoy many motorcycle rides on various types of motorcycles, Scott and the outdoors go hand in hand. So I don't know if at this point anybody has any words, anything they want to say to Scott while he's here.
Do directors count?
Oh, we don't count.
I am absolutely thrilled to be here to celebrate Scott's service. Scott, you've been here longer than I have, but just a little bit. But Scott, we've been friends, really sincere friends. I mean, I used to stop up at the treatment plant just to say, hi, how you doing? I mean, was there any problem? No, of course not. But Scott was there. Scott was the stable force that we needed. I mean, Ebbets Pass. I mean, how much more important well, I guess the other districts are important, but we were number 1. Now we're number 3. Did you know that? Oh, but anyway, but we'll always be number 1, and we'll always be number 1 because of the efforts that Scott made for CCWD. everybody respects you, and you're such a nice guy. But I wanted to bring something special to you because I heard about the motorcycles and everything, and I wanted to present you with 2 gallons of gas. Okay. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay, that's half a tank, he said. Okay.
I'd give him,
Microphone's here.
Bertha, I'd give him 10 gallons of gas if he'd stay.
As a longtime CCWD customer in the Ebbets Pass service area, I can genuinely say that the Stanislaus River water that Scott has treated over the years is some of the best in the world, in my opinion. Even when my children come home to visit, they always talk about how much they miss the Arnold water. Scott has been dedicated to CCWD for as long as I've known him, and I honestly can't really imagine CCWD would be not here. I first met Scott about 23 years ago at the Arnold wastewater treatment plant, back when I was a young temporary summer worker who knew nothing about water and wastewater. One of my first tasks was to clean the old drying beds at Arnold wastewater with that old Kubota tractor. Thinking I was doing a great job, I remember Scott gently pulling me aside, explaining that I was taking way too much sand and that I just needed to skim the poop off the top. His guidance was always kind, polite, and incredibly patient. Scott easily makes my list of the top 10 nicest and genuine people that I've ever met. Working alongside him over the past 2 decades, I've always admired his commitment to CCWD and his community. No matter the time of day of the week, or the weather conditions, rain or snow, Scott was always there, ensuring CCWD's services ran as smoothly as possible. I've lost track of all the challenges we faced together, but a few memorable ones come to mind, like when we arrived at the Meadowmont pump station and the water was coming out above the keyhole on the front door. Figuring out what in the heck we were going to do. And then, of course, there was the countless snowy adventures, like Damon said, with snowshoeing to all the different facilities. And hopefully you remember the secret code word of asking for a ladder over the radio and knowing exactly what was needed. We'll leave it at that. Scott is an example of what we should all strive to be: authentically dedicated, hardworking, honest, and genuine. Scott, it has truly been an honor to work with you, and I wish you all the best in retirement.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make it fast. When I got hired, I worked with Scott. So Scott taught me everything I know on the past. I got a lot of stories I won't tell none of you. He's my best friend. He's the nicest man I ever met. And I wish him well in his life and the retirement. So one cool story, I get a bunch, but we were looking for sample sites. I don't know what year it was. Scott will, because he's got a photographic memory, where we're trying to find a sample site and then he just disappeared. It was over our heads and we're trying to just dig him out. So we've had a lot of fun. I'm gonna miss him.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go next if I could, and hopefully hear from some more folks though. But yeah, I think, a lot of it's been said already, Scott, but I think you just exemplify what we need here, what we strive for here. And I think, Damon nailed it with Brock, because we just haven't had to worry about Arnold in a long time. And I'm sure we still won't have to, because you've left such a strong legacy of training the guys that are coming up behind you. And that's a huge part of what you leave behind here. But yeah, you've just been not only your skill and your expertise, but your quiet leadership, how calm you are. And yeah, it's just been exemplary. we'll be sad to lose you, but happy for you moving into retirement and wish you all the best.
I'll say something, Scott. Sitting up here as a board member, I don't get to interact with most of the employees. And it's like really enjoyable to have these retirement recognition and hear about how wonderful CCWD staff is. And on the other side, it's sad because you're so good. It's like we're going to lose all these wonderful people. And I just want to say thank you to you and to all of staff, actually, that I know you guys all work really hard. And it sounds like we're going to miss Scott. And congratulations and enjoy retirement because it's awesome.
Scott, do you have anything to say in your defense? Well, come on up and introduce you, this lovely lady that's sitting beside you. So.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
Prepared, but yeah, thank you so much for coming together today like this. I really, really appreciate it and love hearing some of this from Ron and others, but you got a great crew here. It's been wonderful working here over the years. Got to meet a lot of really great people, and yeah, I'll miss a lot of them, for sure.
Do you have any plans in retirement?
Right now, no, really nothing. Just
Well, you have two.
Travel.
yeah, we are going to travel. We're going to go up to Canada here in a week or so, hang out there for a while. But other than that, yeah, we'll see what the new year brings. I'm just going to
Hopefully good.
Well, at least you have 2 gallons in your gas tank.
And as much as I'm riding right now, that'll probably last me in May.
What kind of bike do you have?
Yeah.
A Kawasaki, a KLR 650.
I was expecting Harley Davidson, but that's okay.
No, and I do want to say that, your wife is just beautiful, and I do remember you from the Chinese restaurant. So you guys make a wonderful looking couple, just, great, and much happiness, much happiness.
Kelly Gerkensmeyer, it has occurred to me, listening to all these accolades for Scott, that when you do your demonstrations and set up your booths for recruitment at the high schools and stuff, you ought to have Scott come along with you and put in a good word for CCWD, because we're going to have to do a lot of hiring. This is a good example of we've got a bunch of people that are lined up. I understand that's going to follow you in quick succession in the next couple of years. So we're desperate to fill those positions, and I think it would be wonderful if you could just talk to some high schoolers and say, hey, this is a good organization to work for. You can stay in the county and no need to go away.
I was going to make a comment because it seems like all the staff that leave, seems like for some reason we're calling them or they're coming back and doing something, but I decided not to. And he just mentioned it already, so I figured I'd better.
Well, I'd like to
Very
say
valuable.
congratulations to you also, Scott. I just met you today, but it is obvious. I love coming to these things and seeing the crew, your CCWD friends, your co-workers. And you're not the only one. I've been to probably 10 or more of these retirements, and it seems like there's a great family here, and you guys all back each other. There's great stories, code words. I love to hear more stories offline. Certainly not here, but these are awesome times, and I know getting into retirement. I retired in 2019, and there's a lot of opportunity out there. So I do encourage you to get involved and enjoy your travels. But very nice meeting you, and good luck in your retirement.
Yes. handout
let's
time.
maybe have, unless Damon, did you have anything else, or I was gonna say we should have the board vote on the resolution.
Yeah, I was
right?
gonna let
Oh.
Russ finish this off.
Yeah, and then I'd kind of like to just from here get a picture of with Scott and Wendy in the middle and you guys all around them. That'd be all right. I'll get a picture from up this way and then we get a picture of Scott getting his resolution.
I've got mixed emotions about following through with this.
It's just a resolution.
Just,
It's not the retirement. HR is not even in the room.
they're not in the room. Okay, but we do have to make a resolution in
Yeah.
order for it
Need
to
a
be.
motion?
Well, you read
No, I
just-
gotta read it. I gotta read it.
just the bottom part, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, you should-
He left part of it. That's why I have the gavel here. So now therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Directors of the Calaveras County Water District and all co-workers hereby wish Scott all the best into retirement as he and his family celebrate this significant milestone. So now we can have a motion.
I'll make, oh, you want to go ahead and do it, Bertha?
Uh-huh.
Go ahead. You want to make the motion?
Yeah, I'll, make the motion to, approve the
The resolution.
resolution.
I'll
Yes, of
second.
course I will.
And I'll second
Scott
that.
belongs to me.
Okay.
And Wendy.
We have a motion and a second, and let's deviate from usual procedure. We don't need to poll the board. I'll just say yes, yes.
All those in
yes,
favor?
yes. All those in favor say
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. All right. Good job.
Thank you very much.
Want me to take it? You get down there?
Yes.
It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, is he gonna take one with the directors?
No. No.
Yeah, I
I'm not
mean,
dressed for. Oh,
yeah.
can we just sit here? Yeah, that way I don't have to.
Yeah, he.
Come on up and sit.
Yeah. Sit in on it. Yeah. Jeff isn't here.
Hold up the resolution.
There you
One
more picture.
One more.
Yes.
One more.
One more.
One more.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Have a great time. Yeah, I didn't know you, but I've heard enough about you. Where is it? Jeff, he's out of the picture.
He's visiting family, Texas and
Oh, good.
and so on.
I went to high school with his sister.
Mm.
Actually, he was a friend with seventh grade. What was her name? They lived on. It's a year. On Sunset. Since Frank. Yes, I always knew.
I was gonna do it after the report on the water truck thing, but
They all want to. Take a break.
That's not that common.
Take a quick break. Taking my multivitamin, my supplement. I only do it when I eat, and sometimes like I didn't eat till just before I got here. I got a lot of them. It's like, ugh.
Damon?
there's Thomas Chimente.
Didn't charge any meeting.
Just waiting for it to quiet down. Just calm down, calm down.
What's that gavel?
That's just wrong. It's just wrong.
What's that gavel for?
No.
You should have gone to Santa Rosa this year.
Okay, can we continue? I would like to take up this next item, the approval of the budget purchase of a water truck. And then after that, we'll take about a 5-minute break before we launch into Damon's 2-hour presentation on the operations.
Yeah, it's a long one too. All righty. So as you can imagine, many crews here at CCWD can take advantage of using a water truck. Our construction crew in particular in the past has used a water truck for approximately 6 months out of the year. When we had the 2019 and 2021 FEMA funded projects, water truck was a heavy player out in the field work associated with the repairs of the roads in Indian Rock and in Copperopolis and the Bear Creek diversion rehabilitation. Not only the construction crew is not the only crew that can take advantage of the use of a water truck. We have a utility crew that installs services routinely. And at all of our yards where we store material, like base rock and sand, we can take advantage of using a water truck to keep that site free of silica in the air, which is an OSHA requirement these days. But really what it boils down to is, for 6 months out of the year, excuse me, essentially we're working in a dusty, dry, hot environment. And whatever work we do, whether it's any grading work or it's fire protection, or if it's work out on a site that is remote, we're going to need water. And so currently all we have is a water buffalo, and a water truck will eliminate the need to rent a water truck in the future. And the payback for $141,000, which is the after-tax cost for this lowest bid truck, will be paid back in approximately 6 years, the rate that we rent a truck. So that's a benefit. We use these a lot. And so purchasing a new one will allow us to avoid wear and tear that might come with purchasing a used one. And the advantage with purchasing a new one also is we receive the Tier 5 engine, which is DOORS compliant, which is considering things as they are currently within who knows what they may be like in a year or so, but we have a pretty aggressive governor. I would imagine that emissions aren't going to change that much in California in terms of compliance requirements for engines. And so this truck will keep us compliant moving into the future as we start to transition into some form of whatever zero emission fleet may look like in the future. Who knows? So the ask really is that the board approve this lowest proposal purchase of a water truck so that we can get to working on all of our projects.
Damon, you may be overselling this. I go ahead and make a motion that we approve the purchase of a new water truck.
Thank you.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second on discussion. Any public comments on this item?
I'll just say something real quick.
Sure.
I appreciate that you putting in the, it'll take 6 years to get the benefit out of it, because I usually talk about that stuff, so thank you for that. And I did see it came with a warranty of 250,000 mile or 5 years. That's really good.
Yeah.
In small print, it looks like just in the ad, it says it is without warranty, but I think that was just their advertisement and you negotiated that in.
Right. Yes.
Perfect. Very good.
okay.
Okay.
Well, I have a series of questions.
Just-
Public,
Well,
were there any club? Oh,
who is MR?
MR.
It's Rogers.
Oh, Michael, welcome.
Good afternoon. Damon, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Just a couple of comments from my experience in large capital equipment acquisitions in the private sector. There's a lot of standard benchmarks in private industry that an ROI as long as 6 years in many cases would not fly. Typically in the private sector, companies looking to make a capital asset acquisition would look for an ROI of somewhere below 3 years is typical. So I guess my question, Damon, for you, if the asset is only used 6 months out of the year and it sits idle for 6 months, is there a way that truck could we rent it out and to a third party during other times of the year? And is it a revenue opportunity for us if it's not being used?
Yeah, I don't know if we would necessarily be in the business of looking to achieve revenue through the vehicle, but I think in any sort of disaster or an emergency where somebody needs to take advantage of a piece of equipment, we do have mutual assistance agreements between many of the water and wastewater purveyors throughout the county and actually throughout the region, where we, by all means, they could take advantage of not only the water truck, but any piece of equipment that we might have sitting idle should they need it. Yeah.
So the other question would be, as you look forward, I realize that historically you're spending roughly $22,000 a year on rental. Do you anticipate that workload or use of that asset to continue at that rate, or is it?
Well, I actually anticipate that it's going to increase. So for example, we just completed the Tulia removal project at White Pines. We did not use a water truck there. We really could have used a water truck, but we were, the dollars were thin and we had a razor thin margin on that one. So we needed to do with what we had. But I can pretty much tell you that this piece of equipment will be argued over in the yard. Because,
Everybody will want it.
Rancho Calaveras, Valley Springs, any project that we complete either at La Cantena Wastewater or at one of our lift stations is going to be, if we're using a water truck, the other utility crew in particular, but other crews are going to contend to want to use it as well. So we're going to definitely have some scheduling issues with this piece of equipment. And I do anticipate it being used more than what a rental piece was used in the past.
Okay. Thank you. Last question on this topic. You mentioned in your write-up that, a water truck was not always readily available when you needed it. Through Holt, I think, is the vendor you mentioned here. Did you have that conversation with them about, what if Holt bought the asset instead of CCWD?
So, there are many rental yards that have water trucks, so we wouldn't necessarily need to request one of them purchase one, because we could just go to the next rental yard and find one. But oftentimes, they're already leased out for the day is kind of the point I was trying to make, is really you end up working around a vehicle rental company's schedule and the work efforts of others rather than your own objectives. And it becomes a bottleneck, not only for your crews, but for other efforts throughout the district. So for example, if your electricians need to set X piece of equipment on a pad on X day, but you can't get out there and grade the site before Y because you're waiting on this rental company who said they were going to have a truck, but then they don't have a truck, you end up in this just, doing this dance that nobody wants to do to try to find a piece of equipment to get your job done, and it causes unnecessary delays.
Okay.
Yes, I think part of the point
Thank-
here is not just the 6-year recovery of cost, but the intangibles of the flexibility that we'll have by owning the vehicle, the increased use that we'll get out of it,
Right.
and the burden that takes off of those projects, and that's difficult to quantify.
Yes.
But I think it is, something we've prioritized. There's other equipment that, that we could use or that, would be helpful, but this came to the top of the list.
Yeah. And I think those are tangible, Mike. So thank you. Thank you very much for taking my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Michael, there's a series of questions that are going to be asked here that might further clarify the wisdom of this purchase, but go ahead, Bertha.
Okay, that means we won't be seeing Holt filling up their tank in Murphy's. Is
Well,
that?
so that's kind of independent of CCWD. So that's not necessarily one of our work efforts. So you still may see Holt filling up off that hydrant right before the grade. Yeah, most likely you will, unfortunately.
Okay, just a few questions. What are the special skill requirements of a water truck driver? Because we've heard stories about water trucks falling over or,
So to drive one, you need a class B with a tanker endorsement to drive a water truck of this size and weight. When it's loaded, 2,000 gallons of water, it can be quite heavy, right? Yeah. So
and we can handle that.
we can, and we have certified drivers for sure.
How many drivers do you have?
Shoot, nowadays, how many drivers do we have? Yeah, 12 to 15 drivers. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
quite a few.
great. Do we require extra insurance for gross vehicle weight?
I'm not sure how the heavy duty vehicles are covered in terms of insurance. I mean, including like the pumper truck or the vac on. I'm not
I had
sure.
that on my questions to bring to the finance committee about some of these newer vehicles and special vehicles. If they, insurance, yeah.
Currently have 4 tanker trucks that are larger in size in the district right now that are being run by the drivers here.
Cool.
So it's not there's going to be no change in adding this truck. We're not going to have additional requirements for anything.
Well, it'll be another vehicle being insured.
Michael, can you come to the microphone, please?
But, and that's something I want to talk
Mr.
about in the
Crank?
finance committee.
Come to the microphone so that people online can hear you. Please.
Hello?
We currently have, 4 or 5 tanker trucks already. I mean, so as far as like requirements for driving, gross vehicle weight, I mean, as far as insurance, I mean, we're gonna have to add another vehicle for insurance of driving another
Right,
vehicle.
right.
But as far as like training and requirements, all our guys that
Already
are
there.
they're already there. We're not gonna have to add anything. Even if we rented a vehicle like this, it requires a tanker endorsement. Our guys have those. And I mean, this truck is actually small in comparison to most of the other tank trucks that we have.
Mhm.
Looks like it's a pretty short wheelbase.
Is there any tax deductible or do we get any tax breaks?
I did not see any tax breaks on.
Okay, well, we can always ask.
Right, yeah.
Jeff says yes.
Jeff said we do have to pay tax, and if you look at the staff report, the tax is included in the overall. Yeah, so the comparison was vehicles pre-tax, and then the ask or the request is the purchase to be approved post-tax. Yeah.
Okay, and my last point was, you said in the beginning that it would really be more trouble than it was worth if we looked for any used equipment.
We actually, so I want to say in 2021, we had a board approval through capital outlay to purchase a water truck, a used water truck, and we brought one in and it was already leaky. The motor that was questionable. We actually sent it back, and we ended up during that budget cycle not purchasing a water truck. And it was kind of a lesson learned that a lot of the time when these come out of the rental yard, they're used kind of in disregard for the piece of equipment. And so they're used heavily, particularly a water truck, because it's not necessarily a specialty piece of equipment. It's going to end up on most jobs. So they end up getting run really hard. And we saw that firsthand, sent it back and said, we need to kind of check out and live to fight another day on this request. And so that's why it's before you here in 2024.
And so the fact that we have our our crews or our drivers adequately trained, there should be no
That's
problem.
huge. Yeah.
That's
And
Right.
mechanics that are adequately trained too, to address anything that should arise. Yep.
Okay.
Is that it?
I have a, oh, sorry.
You
No,
too?
no,
Okay, she,
that's it.
With our recycling, our sewer water that's recycled, can we use any of the recycled water that's either been treated, highly?
Tertiary treatment.
Yeah,
right,
tertiary treatment, can we use that, water for, on, certain area applications on where we're spraying?
I wouldn't see why we could not on our property. So, because our staff
Right
is
on our
trained,
private
yeah.
property,
So
yeah.
our staff's trained, they know how to
Got it.
interact with tertiary treated water, right? Yeah.
So that way we could use that water
We
and it
definitely could take
saves a little
advantage.
bit from having to get rid of it otherwise.
Right, that's right. Yep.
is that it?
That's it.
Okay, I've been scanning over this, the equipment that is coming with this thing, and I know that I read someplace here that it had 50 feet of half-inch hose on a reel. The picture shows what looks to be like an inch and a half hose on a reel. And in my opinion, a 50-foot half-inch hose would be worthless.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just like spray down water. It's not necessarily like high pressure excavation water.
Well, I've been, around these water trucks my whole life, and the primary use that they have is for knocking over grade stakes
Yeah,
on a job site.
yeah, right.
So you
Yeah,
don't know how to build anything, but just a little joke.
Yeah.
But anyway, you also frequently see them going along a recently backfilled ditch to probe down in to inject water into a ditch. You folks are going to find uses for this piece of equipment that you haven't even imagined yet.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, I always used to have a kind of a rule of thumb that if I was going to pay more than 10% of the purchase price of a tool in a year, I would just buy the tool, because it's just, so some comment was made here earlier about what Mike Rogers brought up about, is it going to be sitting 6 months out of the year? You only use the water trucks sparingly when you knew that you were going to be paying $500 a day to rent the thing. So here we have this on site. There was also, Mike, this has a tow hitch on it, doesn't it? So if you had to pull a trailer out to a job site or something,
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
you are going to put a tow hitch on it?
We will. Yes.
Okay,
Yes, we will.
well,
Yeah, yeah.
that's another thing that this is going to be a.
Used for what? Like,
Tow a piece of equipment, so you could tow like a skid steer out to a job site, and you'd have the water truck, the skid steer, the operator, the whole shooting match all in one spot,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Mhm.
Yep, absolutely. And I agree with you. Yeah, we're gonna find uses for this truck that we haven't even contemplated yet.
And the water trucks that you were renting, although they may have had spray capability, but we're going to use this thing even on a kind of a smallish type of a job where you're going to be creating some dirt on the road. You just come up and turn that front sprayer on and just wash the road off. Just spend time with a broom. I'm very much in favor of this. It's good good decision.
Thank
Okay, does this conclude public comment?
Okay, yes.
Okay.
You can have it. David.
Well, we have to vote on this. We have a motion and a second. Would you pull the board on this, please?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Redmond,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
President Thomas.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, David.
good job. I would like to declare a 5-minute interlude here, so we'll come back and start in on our reports.
in no place it all happened.
That's from the fifth sentence. No.
All right, let's get back underway here on item number 5, reports. We have 2000 or October Operations Department report by Damon. This
Thank
looks like
you, Director Thomas. Yeah, so
this is the first edition, Gone with the Wind. Here.
this is a definitely a thick one for the month of October. So it's starting off now, the ops reports with kind of the breakdown of what we see in mobile MMS, so folks can take a look and understand some of what we see in operations, a kind of a look behind the curtain, so to speak. And so the first slide you'll see is leak checks. And thank you, Rebecca. Animations kill me. So you can see that the month of October, there were less requests for check for leak as there were in September. So we're going to see this taper off as we start to get into the wet season. And that's normal, you know, obviously, you know, it's wetter on the ground. People notice things less. Doesn't mean that we're still not out finding leaks and repairing them and replacing services as we can. This next slide.
You know, Damon,
Yeah,
having that option to see what your water use on that new online stuff should help a lot, you know?
right. It does. And reflecting on the AMI presentation at the last
Yeah.
meeting, we in the office being able to kind of just, you know, hear about, hey, can you guys take a look at this? We can jump in and field folks take a look too. I mean, when they're some of the first people that when we have a conversation to say, hey, oh yeah, I already looked in Centrix and yeah, they're using a lot of water. So if,
So you guys
know,
go out, because in the rainy season, like you said, you don't notice them as much,
Right.
but you will using that tool online.
exactly. Yep. And so, yeah, the pink bar graph, service requests by category, you can see check for leak vastly outnumbers the rest. Some distant second and third or miscellaneous. And so that can be any number of things. We get asked, you know, we ask a lot of our folks, so we can ask them any number of random things when it comes to water services, sewer services, and then sewer inspections also up there. And then the next slide, this one is crew. This is the work orders this year by crew. And so you can see, I've had a conversation with a lot of folks about, you know, what's corrective and what's preventative. And you can see that, you know, the mechanics, 263 work orders, and the collections crew with 238, the vast majority of those are going to be preventative maintenance work orders. So there's a work order for every single lift station inspection, every single generator inspection. And so both of these crews kind of work in tandem.
Can I ask you,
Yeah.
for next time, these labels down below the green,
Yeah.
can you make them darker?
Or just
I'm
put 'em
sorry.
Make them bold with the same size font
Yeah,
as
'cause-
the crew names.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be really helpful. Well, they may not be able to do font size, but if you bolded it, it might be helpful.
I'll see if I can, this is a
Sorry.
screenshot, but I'll see if I can edit it. Because you're basically looking at my computer screen here. which
Gotcha.
is-
If
But yeah,
not, you can tell us what.
If I can do it,
If
I
you
will do
can,
it.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you.
I've got pretty good with that Microsoft editor. So we'll see what I can pull off. And so really on this next slide, the orange one too, work orders this year by type. So you can see, you know, cost to serve, emergency repair, inspection, leak repair. There's a whole gamut of different categories here, projects. So you can kind of at a glance, take a look at and see what our crews have been working on. And then this next one is USA's underground service alerts continue to have a heavy presence out in the field. Our guys spend a lot of time. Lately, it's been responding to the lack of underground service alerts. So we might see crews calling us and saying, hey, we need you guys to locate X, Y, and Z. Where have you been? And we're like, there's no notification. You haven't issued an underground service alert. You haven't requested us to come out. And so a lot of what we understand is there's somebody in an office that's issuing underground service alerts, and it can often be for there can be a mistake with the address, or there's a disconnect between their folks in the field and their folks in the office, and it creates a lot of extra work for our guys.
Sure.
And so, while, I want to acknowledge the good work that PG&E is doing when it comes to undergrounding their infrastructure. But with that also comes a lot of work for our staff.
Damon, if you could go back to the work orders this year by type. In the middle of those bars, it says new installed. Am I to understand that we only installed 24 new meters district-wide?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And so when it comes to the new service lateral replacements, we're tracking those differently. And so the ultimate goal for mobile MMS is when you look at MMS from a GIS based level, you can see, a little meter line, little blue line for a water line. That over time, as our utility crew replaces those services, we want to change that code. So you can, hover over a system or a service area and then see at a glance what they've truly replaced. So we can, and really for us, what's beneficial is when you know that they've replaced a service line, you also know that they've backfilled it with, an approved material rather than native or rock or whatnot. And that's really the peace of mind that we get out of that is.
Are those new installs or just meter replacements, like brand new service? That's
So this
what
would be like a
install
new,
is?
this would be like a new installation for a new account. So.
Okay,
new
perfect. So
install, yeah.
first time customer, if you. will.
Right. And so then there's a whole other category of new service lateral, essentially a replacement, but it's going to be a brand new service lateral. And that's what I was referring to when I was talking about.
Do you have, and I don't know if this is the right forum to ask, do you on the operations crew say, okay, we expect to have X amount of new connections this year and you make sure you have all your stuff in line for it? Or you just have X amount of stuff on hand or?
Well, so
About that.
yeah, we talk about that with customer service. We talk about that with engineering to try to get an idea of how things are looking, the county, we might have, managers might have a conversation and then supervisors might have a conversation to get an idea of what we can look forward to.
Mhm.
But I can tell you that Mike Crank and works with the supervisors from the different departments out in the field to really measure how fast and how quickly they're going through material to make sure that we have material on hand.
So on these 24 new customers, is that this fiscal year or calendar year?
This would be calendar year for MMS, right?
You have a number that you guys, a goal or whatever, for this fiscal year of how many new customers you're gonna have, new connections?
We don't within operations, and I don't think we push any budget considerations up against that either. No.
We have prospects for that subdivision in Valley Springs to bring in 155 new connections
That's right.
soon.
Right. Yeah.
And
And that what's interesting is those will not necessarily be captured as work for our staff. So it's interesting to, how do you capture that within, you know what I mean? So there's some things that we're going to have to work through as we incorporate these additional connections to our.
If somebody has a new connection, a new meter, wouldn't it always be installed by our staff?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Michael, do you think we can get a subject on our finance meeting in December? If you just said 150 new connections coming up, I mean, I'd like to know how many new connections are you projecting?
Yeah, that's usually more of an engineering committee item, but we can.
Well,
we
think
can
about the
talk
revenue though,
through-
right?
Yeah, I mean,
It
it's
should
not.
be in
it-
finance too.
Yeah, it's, yeah, absolutely. We can bring that. to
Thank you.
finance
Yeah,
committee.
okay.
Yep.
There will be costs associated with that, so it wouldn't be until 155 revenue.
Yeah, I'm looking at it as, additional revenue going forward after, we may have revenue from the connection fee perhaps, but that's usually slotted somewhere else.
Yeah,
But
that,
I'm kind of looking at the regular bi-monthly fee that we'll get.
right. And that's usually not considered net revenue either. That's a cost to serve. And so we're, it helps to have a greater ratepayer base, but it doesn't necessarily reduce.
But it does add to the pot of revenue that we need.
Right, but there's new costs associated with that as well.
All right, diving into the heat maps for leak repair. It's always somewhat difficult to illustrate this because some of the service areas are quite large. So I just try to take a very distanced photograph, if you will, of the heat map. So this is the pass. You can see kind of really the Arnold area is the focal point for repair. And then this is copper here. So you can see definitely Poker Flat is bearing the holding the flag for most lake repairs in this service area. This is Jenny. You can see the lower end of Rancho, definitely the source of the most repairs on. This is all for service requests. So this could be service line repair. This could be check pressure. This could be check for leak, any number of those items. So West Point, downtown West Point is holding the candle. And then here's a Copper Cove at a glance, production over consumption. I did the math on a couple of these days and it's around 23% difference, which is pretty darn good for us. And the standard, you know, you're above board at 20% and under. So is that this battery running? Oh, okay, gotcha. So yeah, Copper Cove, next month, I'll highlight a different system for water consumption versus production. So this has really become a helpful tool for our folks in operations. And let's see here. Diving into service line repairs. So, you know, we always have to begin with Rancho Calaveras. This is one in Vista del Lago. It just trying to get, the pictures are a little distorted. I just wanted to try to convey kind of the difficult access that this one had. You've got two services, you got a leak, and then you've got a storm drain pipe in the middle. You have no access. So you've got the vac with the boom out, which is where this, incidentally, somebody was talking about Canaflex earlier. Canaflex is that flexible hose that lives on top of a vac on. And so when it's sucking up debris and rocks, it often will tear over time. It has a lifespan and it needs to be replaced. So this was a 5-hour service line repair simply because we couldn't get a dump truck there. We couldn't get close. And our guys had to just really work from a distance. Milton Road, here's an example of what a service line repair, you know, a failure can do to the asphalt. You guys can see what's going on there. And then interestingly enough, you've got these sleeved services with this aged tap saddle in the image on the right. Kind of hard to see, but those sleeves are somewhat interesting. We found a pocked tough tube service line that lived in sleeves on Baldwin, which is quite interesting. So here's how well our folks clean up the road when all's said and done. Hats off to the guys down in Rancho for that work.
And that's with our machine,
That is, yes,
that asphalt machine that we got.
right, yep. And then here's one, it's kind of a theme that goes through this month of October is boulders, big old giant rocks. So you can see that kind of spray coming out of the tough tube in the image on the left. And it is below a boulder. That rock is just simply too big for our guys to get out of there. So then they have to come in and put a full circle clamp on that. And then it's just got to live to fight another day. Maybe we can put a bottle jack under the boulders and, you know, pour some concrete. I don't know. Just, but you definitely got to be careful when it comes to working next to something like that. Here's a representation of the kind of pressure that we can see down at Rancho Calaveras on a service line failure.
So that boulder is not an example of your bona fide fill.
It's not. No, when I would see that one on a map, I would say that's not a good one. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, for sure. You know, high pressure is the norm down in the lower end of Rancho. Many of our service areas, actually. Here's some picture of tap saddle replacement on Jenny Lind Road. You can see image on the right with some tools and all kinds of different pieces of tough tube with repair clamps and the guys can take kind of, you know, and this happens all over our different service areas. They can take what was really a mess and really clean it up so that you see the image on the right, which is a tap and a manifold, do a couple different meter sets.
Hey, Damon,
Yeah.
on the previous page, I'm seeing how dirty the guys' pants get. So
Yeah.
are those uniforms? So a uniform company cleans them or do the guys have to do it?
We have a uniform company.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
And the pants are the uniform too.
Yes.
What a mess.
Right.
But,
Yeah. Yeah. Some guys like to clean them themselves though, but you know, hey.
Yeah.
But yes. So tap saddle replacement, Jenny Lynn Road. The image on the right is kind of, all this work, down in this hole next to this main, next to this meter set, and then backfilled and cleaned up. And you really don't really know. It's kind of hard to tell that there was even something going on there. So hats off to the guy.
Let's shoot it.
This is a really interesting one. So guys are going to go repair a service line or repair a line, and they end up finding a buried valve. It's about 14, or it's like almost 3 feet deep.
Wow.
And so this thing's been living there for quite some time, not on any map. And so, this is kind of an acknowledgement of every single day, somebody's going to have to kind of redirect and do something a little bit different. You thought you were going to go fix a service line, where you're also going to open up and expose a valve and put a G5 lid on top. And so we can find it in the future. And so that's what the guys did. Hats off to them. So there you go. The valve's all said and done. Everything's back to normal. That was a wild one.
Just like that.
Yeah. So this is the image on the left here on the main break repair at Hart Vixen. This is one
How do you
just,
think that happened? Is that a newly paved area, someone brought in fill and paved, is that in the middle of a cul-de-sac or something?
it is in a cul-de-sac, yeah, or in a court. So this any number of things could have happened, but I think, yes. Somebody came in, was going to do roadway improvements. Might not necessarily have even discussed that with CCWD some years ago. And then they backfilled over the top of this valve, and the valve perhaps was shutting off, maybe isolating a small section of that court. And then in the future, you're going to go do some more work. Hey, we're going to go and we're going to put some chip seal on this thing. We're going to put some more asphalt on top. And over the years, because that looks like a quite old G5 too, that train.
How deep is that?
Yeah. It's almost 3 feet deep when you look at that tape. I think it's 34 inches right there.
Wow.
So yeah, it's
Been there a while.
been there a while, right? Yeah, that was a really interesting. Yeah, interesting. So this one, main brake repair on Hart Vixen. The image on the left, you can see 2 crews working. So the crew in the foreground is our crew working on this 8-inch main brake, and the crew behind them is the DA Wood crew working on the A to B transmission pipeline project. And so this is about, I don't know, 6 or 7 o'clock at night. As DA Wood is starting to wrap up, our guys are starting to open the ground to fix this main, and it was quite a work effort. The image on the right shows you the backfill that Russ was just acknowledging that would not allow us to sleep well at night. And that was what's living on top of this water main.
Wow.
So you can see the image on the left here is the main in situ. So we've pulled all those boulders out, cut the asphalt, exposed it, sucked out all the material with that vac on and the Canaflex. And that was the broken main. And then when you pull it out, the image on the right, because it was at a bell, you can see that bottom connection to the bell. You can see that kind of break, which is kind of an unusual break on a piece of AC like that. So, when you consider the amount of debris and rock that was living on top of that thing and the amount of pressure that it was under with, heavy equipment driving on top of it, moving those rocks around, jackhammers, you can see that it was almost like a pressure break. And that was shooting out close to 1 million gallons of water going down Hart Vixen for about 40 minutes, because the challenge with Hart Vixen is there's 3 different water mains in the road. So one of them is a pump line, one of them is a line of water being conveyed from the treatment plant to our main storage tank. So you can't just go hit a couple valves and shut it off. You need to taste test what's going to shut it off effectively. And so it took a while. And so there's the main install, the new install, and there's the material on the right. Incidentally, the crews threw all that in the back of a pickup truck by hand, because it was just, this site was too constrained to get folks over there. And then this is the compacting the material
Good stuff.
post repair. So moving up to Ebbets Pass, you can see that the Ebbets Pass guys are really effective at being exacting. So you can see, want to highlight that the tip on that vac-on pickup tube on the left is to keep these guys safe from electrical. And this image on the right, you can see that spray coming out of the water service. But then you can also, it's kind of hard to see here, but there's an electrical line in the ground in there too. So in the image on the left, you can see there's this apparatus that will actually shut the water off on our service line. It's that square box at the top of your image, and they've actually cut the service. And then the image down in the left, you can see that electrical line still in the ground. So our guys have to be super cautious in Copper and in Ebbets Pass
Yeah.
when they're fixing service lines, to be safe around this electrical. It's just all over the place. So here's Chapel of the Pines. You can see the accuracy with which our guys located this repair. You can see the USA marks. And then the image on the right looks like the repair clamp's giving up the ghost, starting to spray out the outside. So it's replaced that section. And look at that, back in business. So they located it right where it was. And then the image on the right shows you the backfill of the temporary asphalt and everybody heading out. This is Navajo Drive, another example of really exacting excavation for repair. Gives you an idea of some of the conditions that guys work in. Look at this. This is another rock. So this isn't even in Rancho. This is up on Ebbs Pass. You've got boulders living on top of service line.
Oh.
And so, yeah, guys just do a fabulous job. You can see the image on the left, pre-boulder, and the image on the right, post-boulder.
Wow.
And those aren't just water lines. You got some more. Looks like you got telecom in there and electrical. So there's a lot going on in that hole right there. Hats off to the guys for doing great work.
Absolutely.
Here you go. This is a great one. No PG&E, yet looks like there's PG&E down in there. I mean, so that's kind of an example of some of the things that our guys have to contend with.
Wow.
Really, testament to them. They're able to backfill that. It's just a, what is it? A 2.5 by 2.5 square in the ground, and they're in and out of there. Here's a corpse stop replacement on Crystal Way. Another example of the great work the guys do, really clean, in and out of there. And then system flushing at Sheep Ranch. So the fire system at Sheep Ranch, there's 2 actual conventional fire hydrants. The rest are these, what we call standpipes, and they don't have a lot of pressure behind them. So this is one of those challenges that Michael is always discussing with folks in Sacramento about how do we acknowledge fire protection, water quality, and the challenges around both for rural communities. Routine work up on the pass. This is work to inhibit erosion around our meter box sets. So we're going to put some 2x6s, keep the bank from falling off. And so we can put meter boxes in and customers are happy and we don't have material falling off the embankment. Some more routine work on the pass, meter sets and PRV, pressure inspections and adjustments of CRDs, CRLs. This is a 2-inch repair on the water line at the West Point waste plant. So this is part of the West Point Wilseyville consolidation project, pouring a kicker. I don't know if you've all seen what a kicker looks like. Some of them are prettier than others. Some of them we precast. Hats off to the guys up from past, but this is pouring a kicker in the image on the right. And then, so this is a great one. Sometimes we just get interesting phone calls. This one was, hey guys, hey Damon, you guys own Wilson Lake? Yes, we do. Well, there's a truck in Wilson Lake and it's not stolen. And the owner has actually passed away. So,
Yeah, that was on the.
From being in this
summary, wasn't
accident?
it?
it might have been.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually using the tow truck to get it out.
Huh?
So
They left it there.
So we called environmental health. Environmental health said, as long as you can get that out safely and there's no leakage, you're good to go. And so that's what we did. And hats off to the guys over in West Point for getting this one done quickly. This was it. We found out about it in the morning and 2 hours later it was out of Wilson.
How long did it take you to get stickers on the door?
Not very long at all, actually.
It's in the
Yeah.
fleet now.
It's a nice pickup. Yeah. Yeah. And so here, the finish off the Thule removal project with our construction crews, some before and after
Amazing.
snaps. So there are currently, the image on the right is what White Pines looks like. It's starting to fill back up. So Gabriel was in here earlier talking about that. We've gained about a foot since we completed the cleaning effort. So we can anticipate White Pines filling up rather quickly now. Hats off to the construction crew. They always do fabulous work. It looks like even more of a park than it is nowadays.
Look how beautiful and clean.
And so I don't know if you guys noticed, but our electrical crew, they just plow through repairs.
How nice.
And so there's like
clean and
60, 70, yeah.
Yeah.
And so here's an example of the great work they do with analytical equipment installation. Really clean, like Director Saida says, exacting. They do a great job. These are turbidimeters at West Point. And then this is telemetry. We had a lot of issues with telemetry district wide. So this is the troubleshoot on telemetry, that some images of that effort. And then here's the bucket truck in action. You can see our electrician Craig Canepa in the image on the left, doing some tree trimming so that we can improve telecom for our infrastructure. Wiring has a lifespan as well. So this is one of our effluent pumps at Copper. This is the wiring just basically failed. And so our guys cut all these melted terminals up and then installed new ones and wired it back up. We were back in action. And then hats off to the chili cook-off champion. Hands meeting. He's won, I think, twice. Oh, was it back? Yeah.
Oh, try that chili.
So he makes a mean pot of chili.
Nice. No. Hey,
Nice,
Damon.
Damon.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Damon.
what you're showing us, Damon, is, when they go out on a trouble call, and they open up that box, they have no idea
That's right.
what they're going to be confronting.
That's right.
So that they have to be, super cautious for their safety,
Right.
but then the analysis comes in and so that's. And
There's
I
some
said that-
psychology in that. Absolutely. Yeah. Troubleshooting, especially, if you get a call at 2:00 in the morning, it's an emergency, or there's an alarm going off at a facility and you're opening that box and you don't know what it is you're going to find. Right.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
for sure.
Yeah, and so my hat's off. Well, I don't have a hat, but,
Thank you. I get you.
Okay, do we have,
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Nice
before you
report.
go away, Damon, do we have any public comment on this report?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Hey, Damon, great report, and especially all the nice dashboard items. It's getting to be easier and easier to understand just the challenges that you all face and overcome on a monthly basis. So thank you for putting the extra effort to summarize and make it more visible and easy for us out here that only see you guys every 2 or 3 weeks to get a handle on it.
Absolutely.
One favor, would it be possible to start reporting on non-revenue water?
Yeah, let me look at that. I think production versus consumption is there, so we should be able to pull something up for a month over month. It might be a delayed reaction, but we could definitely look at that.
Well, you have
Yeah,
that
good.
one,
Yeah,
you have the one about Copper Cove, so.
right. Exactly. That's what I mean. It might be
Yeah.
just a month behind, kind of. Generally, our production is a month behind also. So,
Well, I think you reported to the state, right, in different categories?
we do, we report water loss annually to the
Yeah,
state, so it's not a
that's something
monthly,
that might
yeah,
not be available on a monthly basis, but we do report out on that.
yeah.
Yikes. Okay, well, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to be one of our key areas of focus in the coming months is to get that number to go as close to zero as feasibly possible, economically and otherwise. Thank you.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay, I see an additional light on PR.
Thank you, Patrick here, Patrick Roy.
Patrick.
Show. Hi, first off, my congratulations to Mr. Davidson on his win. But Damon, your photography skills are incredible and always improving. But 2 questions for you.
Yes.
Actually, it might be more than that. Is there room for expansion on your dashboard analytic tools to create tabs for areas or regions to maybe better identify hotspots for predictive analysis and stuff like that?
Well, so we have the hotspots for service requests, but I don't know if we can, I'm just trying to riff on what we would analyze to predict.
I mean, maybe
Issues.
narrow it down to smaller zones rather than just one big zone, so you could see if there's some particular portion of a zone that's caused that you might anticipate more problems based upon recent
Yeah,
histories
gotcha.
and so forth.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're working on, this is actually an operations and engineering work effort, are to obtain some water meters that we can put in different parts of the distribution system so we can better pinpoint and refine our understanding of the different zones. Yeah. Yep. So we're definitely, what you're selling, we're already buying. Yep.
Okay,
We'll
that makes
continue
sense.
to work on that. Yep.
Okay, with the observation that the South Rancho Jenny Lind area is still pretty heavily affected by leaks, and that's been a fairly consistent trend for a long time. I'm just curious, will the A to B pipeline project have any impact on reducing that, or are we still going to have the pressure downstream that's likely causing a substantial percentage of these leaks?
You're going to see significant pressure reductions. A lot of the system that's at the lower end is actually off of the A zone. So we should be able to adjust pressure reducing valves that feed that area differently than we do now, because right now that transmission line is serving a lot, A to B is serving a lot of customers, and it's interconnected to the A zone before it hits B tank. So it should give us improved flexibility on portions of the system past B tank after the project's completed. Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks for the answers on that. And to back up quite a ways in the presentation, congratulations on the future acquisition of the water tanker.
Thank you.
Tanker trucks are just too great of an asset to pass up when you have an opportunity and you have the need for them. So good move. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hey, any other online questions, comments from the board? Damon, you and I talked a little bit yesterday about some items on the claim summary. On what sticks out in my mind is something that you told me about the $4,000 expenditure about training. You have to pay, the district now has to pay $4,000 per person who want to get a new Class A. Can you explain to the board members here what that's all about?
Yeah. So the new requirement for Class A certification. Yeah. So a new requirement for Class A certification is 15 hours of behind the wheel training, accompanied by a certified trainer. So in the past, CCWD was able to get in the truck with somebody with a permit and train them up and say, okay, they're ready to go take their test. Now a requirement is that we send folks to class and they receive that training from a certified trainer. That's usually to the tune of about $4,000 per person.
Class A.
For a Class A license. Yep.
And you said earlier that we have 12 or more people that are qualified to drive these tankers and things like that. But didn't you tell me that this new requirement came into effect last January?
I wouldn't say it was year before. It's been 2 years. Yeah.
And how often do they have to get recertified?
Well, so we're certifying new drivers. So as you can imagine, one of the really valuable skills to have as a class, or endorsements to have as a Class A when you're applying for a job at CCWD these days. So what we're doing with that training is training up our existing staff. So there's certain jobs that require you to have a Class A. Folks moved into that job internally, promoted to this job, promoted to this distribution job, for example. They need to get that Class A, then we send them that training. So as we look at future hires, it's really kind of a valuable metric, if you will, to have a Class A. You're applying for a job at CCWD.
But the reason I bring it up is that we don't have an opportunity to shine a light as often as we should on the I don't know, the sudden changing landscape of state requirements that we just have to fund out of ratepayers' rates. So,
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just keeps going on and on and on.
It does.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your report. I always
Thank you.
enjoy looking at that. One final question. What is the capacity of soil containment on a VACCON truck? It's got to be what, a yard and a half?
16 yard. So the VACCON's 9 yards, the Gap Vax is 12 yards, that the tank is back.
So you just drive down the road and dump it then?
Yeah, well, that becomes challenging. So our site's, classification of that soil is very challenging. You can imagine. So sometimes, depending on where you're at, if somebody has to dump the vac, you can go take a nap You know, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, get some rest because they're going to be a while. You know what I mean? If you're out in Timbuktu.
Well, I never thought about that. You have a sewer leak and you suck it out. You have to take it.
Well, now that.
You have to take it to, yeah, you have to take, you have to take it to
Yeah,
Kettleman City.
no, we take it to our treatment facilities.
Oh,
Yeah, we take it to the intake of our waste plants. Yeah. So that's what I mean. You could be quite a distance away from a facility. Yeah, yeah. Challenging.
I've got a place on my ranch. You can just, I'll give you the gate code.
Right?
Okay.
And I'm usually very appreciative and grateful for your reports, but I do have to say this time around, I appreciate you acknowledging the chili cook-off winner, although you stole my thunder a little bit, but you somehow missed the costume contest winner and the picture that should have been included in the presentation.
Well, so
We're gonna bring that back.
that one is a tough one
We're gonna
because
have
I
to bring
don't
that one
always
back.
know if everyone in costume wants me to. Because I have some great costume photographs.
I
but
believe
not
it's
always
public
too
record
sure.
now, so. Yeah, I believe it's public.
You know,
record
I
now,
mean,
so
You know what, Michael? You're right.
We'll bring it back. We'll bring
We'll
it
bring
back.
it. We'll bring it.
I hope so. Yeah.
I imagine there's a video. we could-
And second and third place as well.
All right.
Spoiler alert, that person is in the room right now.
Congratulations. You get a trophy? Nice.
Okay, Kelly, are you ready to give us an external affairs report?
Kelly is always right.
Is this the inaugural, the first report?
Yeah.
Since the big day.
Since we moved it back to the board.
Okay.
Oh,
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
good afternoon, Kelly.
So I'm going to start off just by saying that I absolutely love my job. The main reason why I'm saying that is because an event that I did last night in West Point, I was greeted with a few folks who said, wow, you must really, once they found out I was with CCWD and what I do, they said, oh, you must really love your job. But it was said in a different kind of tone. And I said, actually, I do. And it was a really great event. It was.
But I thought you weren't presenting. You did present?
No, this is.
This,
Oh,
I didn't present at this one. They had a few different speakers, the fire chief, Eric Holt from
Right, that's what I
OES,
thought.
one of the amateur radio operators, and then Rick Kerrigan. They all gave really good presentations. I'd say including the folks that were there from Red Cross, there was about 40 people there. Good cookies, good information. It went from about 5:30 to, I think, got out there about 8:30. It went on for quite a while. Really good dialogue, good presentations, and just great folks. I was really happy to be up there. I'd really like to see some of these kinds of events happen in other areas too. I think, Ebbets Pass did one a few weeks ago that I'll talk about as well, but this is the first time I've had the chance to go up to West Point, and it was a great experience. Again, for those gals that mentioned my job, they said they were going to throw eggs at me. And then one lady said she has ostrich eggs. That's worth about, it's equivalent to a dozen eggs. And she said she wouldn't throw that one at me, but they were kidding, and it was good. I had an opportunity to have really good conversations with them. Usually I have my laptop there, and I got some of the different presentations that we've done so I can just talk through it, or help folks with the portal and just getting them familiar with some of that stuff. Last week, I was invited to attend dinner with a scientist. So now I can officially check off being called a scientist off my bucket list. I've never been called a scientist. It was an honor to be invited. When I was invited, I reached out to the gal who was putting it on and said, I'm not a scientist. You might have gotten my name mixed up with somebody else. They said it's not, the word scientist is used a little loosely, and they thought it would be great for the students to learn about water and what we do. There was also a representative there from San Andreas Sanitary.
Where was that at?
That was at Frogtown last week. There was about 140 students ranging from 4th grade to 12th grade. Some of the students were dressed very nice in blazers and high heels and very businesslike, little scientists in the making. A ton of speakers. And what happened at the beginning is the students all had to come they were given like a treasure hunt. You had to find maybe somebody who works in water or works in the earth or works in law enforcement or was raised in Calaveras. And so they had to check all these names off and they got a prize. And then as the evening went on, each of us who were presenters had 4 different groups, depending, and the sizes of the groups varied. My first 2 groups were large. They were from San Andreas. I would say they were probably middle school age, middle school, 4th grade-ish, They had recently toured the San Andreas wastewater facility, so they had a lot of knowledge and had a lot of questions. When I put that presentation together, it was just, I didn't know what to expect with this one. So it was a mixture of all things CCWD from all the different areas because it's county-wide. So we could have seen kids, students from San Andreas, West Point, Copperopolis, Ebbets Pass. Again, my first 2 groups were with San Andreas, very engaging, excellent questions. Even the chaperones or the parents I found I caught them a few times, just not even blinking, just really engaged with it as well, learning. So it wasn't just for the student. And then we had dinner, and then there was a great keynote speaker, a local student from Calaveras County who now works at Lawrence Livermore Labs. Gave a great presentation on lasers and all the great things you can do. Then after dinner, I had 2 more groups. The next set of groups was older students, from Avery Middle School. So it was nice. I was able to really speak to them exactly where their water comes from and get a little bit more in depth. So that was really, really awesome. A great event. I hope I get invited back to it next year. I think any chance to really start talking with our local students is really, really beneficial. One thing I asked all the groups when they left is to just, after I told them about fire hydrants and services and, all the different things that are under our feet that we don't think of, or maybe don't think of. I just asked them, when you see a fire hydrant or the next time you use water in your home, just think about where it came from, how it got here, I also brought all sorts of books and some of the pamphlets we've made and the QR codes to get into the industry and to get educated to hopefully get in the water and wastewater industry. This one is one of my favorites. It was kind of a newer event. This was the same group. Her name's Martha Rubin. I'm going to try to have her come to maybe one of our external relations committee meetings. But she worked with Chief Johnson up there on the Ebbets Pass to put a winter preparedness event, much like the Firewise event they do in the spring, summer, to prepare for wildfire and some of the things you can do around your home. So this was a really unique event, more specific to winter. It was awesome. It was very well attended. Probably more folks were there than at the Firewise event. Several different agencies, CHP, PG&E, Caltrans, so many different agencies, and the tone was emergency preparedness, of course, a lot of snowplow stuff, power outages, be ready to shelter in place, all the normal stuff. One thing I really, really enjoyed was Chief Johnson earlier on in the presentation. In his presentation, asked for a round of applause for CCWD. And I haven't even spoke yet. And the reason why he said that was because, he can think of, since he's lived up here, all the different power outages and road. But he's like, I can't think of any time that my water was out for any significant amount of time. And so that was a really great segue for me to walk into that. Again, because a lot of it's talking about power outages and all those. And then again, a lot of folks don't think about, but I still have water. I had a great conversation with someone in particular who said they were out of power for over a week and it really became a nice event. Her and her husband played games, they read books, they actually really loved it. And I know her personally, so I said, well, imagine if during that week you guys couldn't flush your toilet. It wouldn't have been as nice. And she kind of paused and didn't really think about it, or had to think about it. But again, that's how much we take it for granted. Yeah. Is those simple things that we use every day. So sorry, I'll get in. This is the presentation that I gave at that event. And so, of course, it was how to be prepared for winter. So one of the main things I told everybody was, number one is just know where your meter is. These meters, this is just another snow berm that anybody who's been up there sees this all the time. But, these snow berms, there's meters in there. And again, know where those are. A lot of folks turn off their water underneath the house and don't really realize that there's all that pipeline between the meter and the house. You know, and again, we've seen everything from tree limbs coming out and spearing the line to just a windstorm and the roots, you know, snapping those lines. So it's really important to even just know where those meters are. I encouraged everyone while the weather was nice, go out there, put a flag, put a marker, something. I know the guys up on the pass have been putting some markers, but those are about 2 feet and easily can get covered. And then those snow berms become ice. I'm kind of bummed that Billy left. This is Billy, I think the season before last, just looking for any given meter up there. I believe this is probably up in big trees, but again, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. It's kind of cruel sometimes. These guys will go out there and they'll use probes to look for the meter, dig a little bit, and you probe and you feel it. You're like, ooh, that's a concrete box or whatever it is. You know you found it. You dig it up and it's a rock. And so
That looked like Scott's parents' cabin.
yeah, and this one, I bet you even Pat would make this hole look. That's deep. That's a deep one. Which allowed me to segue into the customer portal. I think it's very useful. These are screenshots from my own account. I use the customer portal. I really like it. It's worked really well for me. I use all the different features as far as having it. I mess with it all the time to actually make it alert me, and I have it alert me through my text, email, and phone. And again, I really lower it so I get those, and then all of a sudden, boom, I get a call. Then I get an email. Then I get a text. It's like, okay, I know I'm using water, but it's great. And I think this was a good segue because, you know, if your meter is buried or if you're out of town, you know, I think being able to identify if you have those leaks and just know. And so it was great. A lot of folks did come up after the presentation. I had the website ready. I had my, I was able to log onto my account so I could walk them through it. And so quite a few folks were very interested and probably signed up because of that event. So I think that's a good thing. Love to bring attention to these fire hydrants. Luckily, I was standing next to the fire chief and I said, you know, a nice fair weather fire hydrant. I'm sure the fire department loves it. Our guys love it, easy to get to. And it's certainly, if it was only that simple, this is a great opportunity for me to bring attention to the fire hydrants that are buried under those same berms, you know, and explain just kind of the concept of the fire hydrants up there, explain to them that they are technically designed to break off. You know, they're all dry barrel fire hydrants. A lot of folks didn't know that, you know. We've all grown up seeing the pictures of down in the city when a car hits a fire hydrant and you have a huge geyser. I mean, that still can happen, but I was able to explain how that still happens. You know, sometimes those plows, if they hit it below the break off, it can break it down at the shoe and completely shear it off. The image on the right is, you know, a valve to turn those off. We don't have a valve for each hydrant. I wish we did. We don't. And so sometimes we have to shut off more valves in the street. Seems like a simple task. But in the wintertime, when the roads are all white, you have no idea where that valve is. Just like the fire hydrant, just like your meter, it's a little bit more challenging for our guys to find it. And you might need to find 2 or 3 or 4 valves to isolate that hydrant. So then let's say you find that valve. Awesome, you found it. Well, now it's frozen to the ground. So you can break out your torch and move on with your day. But
Kelly,
yeah,
do we have our valves and important items like this have some kind of GPS coordinates to help you guys get to where you need to go?
I know the guys have been doing a ton of great work in conjunction with MMS with the Bad Elf, which is like a device that does do GPS. And so they've been doing a lot of, we've made huge.
Helpful.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. It's still hard. I mean, it still gets, again, you're looking for something this big and you're close, but still finding it can be a challenge. And they paint them and it makes, there's a few tricks there, and a metal detector will find it, but sometimes it's not so simple. So. And again, I think anybody who lives up there, this is just another day without power. No big deal.
You know what's making me do is like, no, I don't want to live in Wyoming. With all the snow.
Yeah, yeah. No, they were all able to really understand this. This is a very common view from just driving down the road up there.
Beautiful.
One thing that it offered me the opportunity to say is when you guys are out of power, we're out of power. And, you know, when we're out of power, again, this was in the Ebbets Pass area, so it gave me the opportunity to speak specifically to that area. But, you know, we're still moving water up that hill, with or without power. And whether that be generators, you know, we might not have power at all facilities, or they might all be out. It happens. And I heard a sigh in the room that they didn't understand that. You know, they didn't understand like, oh, The water system doesn't really need power, but it does. So this is this great opportunity to illustrate that to them. And then the great opportunity to kind of show the uniqueness and talk about how far out in the woods some of these are and what the guys have to do to get to them, to fuel up generators, to make repairs. I mean, generators break down like anything else. Our guys have to get there, and they do get there. Very rarely, I can't think of any time that we've had a significant outage for very, very long due to, like, well, knock on wood, but it's incredible what's happening in the background at night during the snowstorms, whatever it takes to keep the system running.
Good employees.
Absolutely. And again, whatever it takes. Of course, you know, when you can slow it down and explain to them, you know, we can't get huge fuel trucks to some of these generator sites all the time. So we're you know, ferrying smaller amounts of fuel to these larger tanks. And you can kind of, you get a, hopefully you get a good idea of how far that is or how deep that is to stretch that hose. Dragging this heavy hose through the snow for however many yards, it's not easy. These guys do it all day long. Can't always get our own trucks in there. This is a fun one. This is some pictures from, I had the pleasure of working with Pat on this one. I believe this was 2019. I might be off on the date, but anyways, this was at Avery Pump Station, which is, you can see, is the second tank from the Hunter's water treatment plant. And remember, this is a series, so we pump from Hunter's up to Avery, Avery to Meadowmont, Meadowmont to Sawmill, and so forth up into Big Trees. So that was a key component. I think the power was off for that facility for just about a week. We could not get any equipment on Moran Road, no big trucks. It was completely impassable. And so what we did is we had a fuel truck that just kept on meeting us down by Avery Middle School. We'd fill up that thing, go up there, put fuel in, come back down, just nonstop, constantly. We never lost, you know, the generator stayed going, kept on pumping water, moving up the hill. All this happening in the background, nobody even really knew it other than us. So
They had their water.
absolutely.
And was it that day that you applied for another position at CCWD?
To be honest, I loved that. That was fun. It's rewarding. You know, it's hard, but it's also rewarding. You know, and I feel like I can speak for just about everybody that in this field that we're in, you're doing something amazing. You're really doing something that is impactful for the community. And I don't want to disrespect Navy SEALs, but I used to kid around saying, like, we're kind of like the Navy SEALs of the water. You know, I mean, if we do something, you know, all night long, we're working really hard, keeping the water going, and we're done by 5 or 6. They wake up, take showers, have coffee, and don't notice anything. We did our job, you know.
Right.
Like I said, we're by no means as good as Navy SEALs, but that was my own interpretation of it.
CCWD seals.
Yeah. And then again, of course, the sewer system, you know, we talk so much about water, but the sewer system does not get any snow days either. You know, and we can't just turn off the sewer system. We can't just say, oh, you know, the power's out. Sorry, no sewer. You know, again, this event was at the Independence Hall in White Pines. I was able to kind of explain that, you know, all the sewer in this building goes down to a lift station down by the lake, pumps up to about Chevron, gravity's down through the golf course, goes to another, it's kind of hard to see here, but in the lower left is our lift station 2, which then takes all that gravity feed wastewater and pumps it over to the treatment plant. As you can see, the treatment plant's mostly outside. And again, that's not something we can just shut off because we don't have power. And so again, same thing with lift station 2, there's not just this huge tank under the ground that can store all that. We need to move it, whether it be by the pumps that are on site or trucks. We need to get that sewer up to the treatment plant. Again, you can't see it well, but that's buried. You know, there's a generator in there. Again, there's 2 pumps in there.
Yeah. When it's snowing, what happens to the pond? I mean, you know.
It's all warm. It melts it. No, I mean, it just keeps on operating.
But, you know, the amount of snow doesn't affect it.
It affects it, and it affects the staff that's working on it. Yeah, I mean, but they're still out there getting it done. These are some photos that Ron Ron Rose, who's the lead operator up there, sent me.
Mhm.
Yeah, if these guys could, I mean, you see it with Damon's pictures, but if these guys sent all the photos of everything they're doing, it's crazy. And it's amazing to have such good cameras in our pockets now. We can capture, this a lot better than we used to.
Mhm.
So it was a short and sweet presentation. Again, this was at the end where I just, we got 3 happy guys there working in probably really cold weather, probably really wet. And again, like we always say, hats off to these guys working in the middle of the night to keep the services going. And that presentation from the whole presentation it's on YouTube. If you guys want to see it, there was a lot of good speakers, again, from so many different agencies. It was very well attended, very informative, really good feedback. And again, like I said earlier, it was refreshing to have something like this in West Point too. And I would love it if Copper did something like this, Jenny Lind, Rancho area too. It's just really good for the community. And it's a really wonderful opportunity for, I think, CCWD to come represent and just talk about these kinds of things and just bring that awareness. So I appreciate that opportunity. And this was just in the last couple of weeks that I got the opportunity to do this. So,
It reminds me of how we are first responders to everything. So have you done any presentations to the people who make these decisions about who is and who isn't a first responder in regard to the carpool or the electric vehicles and stuff? We need to be there more. I think you guys did one presentation or something, but
Oh, no,
they need to hear more.
Damon's been on the front line of that. He's
Yeah,
on the
you've been
implementation
doing it,
task
Damon?
force.
Yeah.
Damon's been giving a lot of those presentations to each of the CARB board members by now at this point, probably.
And
And
still
CARB
no
senior staff. Yeah.
update.
So Damon's been really pivotal in that effort to try to educate CARB. And,
Yeah.
we're gonna keep
Still waiting.
We're gonna keep at it.
Yeah.
well, and hopefully if we keep educating our youth and the students and the future lawmakers and just bringing this awareness,
Yeah.
again.
But also the ratepayers, and then maybe they could be the voice as well at some point.
Right.
And this has been going on, as far as Ebbets Pass is concerned, we are continually doing
Yeah.
customer education so that they just feel really, really good up the hill about water and where it comes from. What do we do? One of the things that I want to make sure, and I'm sure this is what you do with your staff, if there's anything that makes your job easier, if there's any problem areas, I want them to make sure that they let everybody know what would help them, and that we comply and that we supply them with what they need. This is, that's very critical. And I'm sure you do, but I just want to reemphasize that.
Right. No, I think CCWD is leaps and bounds in that area. I think back when I first started with no back truck, two-wheel drive backhoe up on the pass, no dump trucks. We had a flatbed that we would have to shovel the rock into the flatbed and then shovel the rock off the flatbed. It's, dangerous, inefficient. You saw the presentation. I mean, these guys are digging around power lines. Try doing that with a backhoe, where you have the backhoe there for a minute to peel off the asphalt. The rest is shovels and little 12-volt pumps. Those back trucks are game changers. That has made us tremendously more efficient, and I think in the long run save huge amounts of money. And you can fix upwards 5+ leaks in a day if you do it right. Where back in the day you won because it was miserable. And so I think Damon has really done a great job with his staff and just modernizing us and making us more efficient. I think it's come a long way.
Perfect.
I believe it has, yeah.
Very impressive little
Damon.
videos. Good job.
All right. Thank you very much.
Great.
Okay,
Or Kelly.
any public comment on Kelly's presentation? Francisco, go ahead.
As usual, I am continually impressed by how well Kelly has just flowered into his role as the new manager. I congratulate him on his continual improvement. Thank you, Kelly.
That's all the public comment? No more board comments? Thanks, Kelly. Appreciate your efforts. Okay, let's go on to 5C, General Manager's Report.
Okay, I'll keep mine pretty brief, but I do want to introduce a guest who's here with us today. And you've all met him before, I think, but Greg Stengel with Phoenix Energy was in the neighborhood. And
You were familiar. I was just like, right.
and you know,
I haven't invited you.
yeah,
Well, thank you for
always
being here.
invited guests, always invited. Greg's just done tireless work to try to secure the funding for the biomass plant in West Point. And they're making progress on that front. And we're trying to be as supportive as we can, however we can. And also looking at grant opportunities for ways we can interconnect our facilities once that project is up and running. And so we're coordinating on that front too. And I just really appreciate Greg stopping by and appreciate all the work
Nice
and
to
the
see you.
partnership. Great.
Well, Greg, when Michael gets done with his report, would you mind stepping up to the mic and telling us where you're at? There was a stumbling point with funding, and I'd like to hear where it landed or where you're going. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. We might as well do it right now, but keep it real quick and then I'll keep going. Yeah.
Well, come on up. Awesome.
Well, again, allow me to begin by just saying how much we've appreciated the partnership with CCWD. It has been an absolute amazing experience having a public partner who sees the value of what we can do, and we're spending more and more time increasingly working on how the connection between forest biomass and rural public water treatment can make each institution better. So we're working a lot on how our activities can improve the economics of the West Point, Wilseyville treatment plant and vice versa. So we really do see this as an opportunity to promote that. And I spend a lot of time in Sacramento talking on y'all about the leadership that emanates from Calaveras County. We are, as far as our financing goes, we have now had $38.6 million committed to the effort. That is the full value of the amount that we need. However, we are still waiting on our good friends at the United States Department of Agriculture. I think I am getting a tattoo that says I will never do another USDA loan, comma, again. But you know what is remarkable about this effort is everybody from Secretary Wade Crowfoot of Natural Resources to Congressman McClintock. Now, those are two people that you might think won't fit in the same room. Have both put an oar in the water to support unsticking that which is stuck. So we couldn't ask for a more favorable environment. We did just recently, by which I mean yesterday, complete the activation of our conditional use permit. That happened yesterday with the county. So we have begun a little bit of effort in the meantime on the ground that secures all of the permitting. So in that sense, you know, fully ready to go. We do hope we're going to be hearing from USDA within a week or two as our bank informs us. But frankly, that is neither the first nor second nor third time this thing has been just around the corner. So with, you know, there are plans B and C with the state of California stepping up, which we appreciate. But please watch this space and again, happy to answer any questions.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, maybe we'll bring it back once we'll have a few more developments and hopefully some really good news. We'll bring it back to as an agenda item where we can talk about it in more detail. But yeah, thank you for stopping by, Greg.
Michael, we're going to be in Washington next week. If
Oh, yeah.
if the money is available, we'll bring it back to you.
Yeah.
So,
We're
I
bringing
need
in.
to go see them and say.
gonna bring an extra
"Just a check."
Bringing in. suitcase. Always. Yeah. So, and then, yeah, so we'll be in DC next week. We've done a lot of prep. Kelly's been just instrumental in pulling together materials and always constantly improving the outreach materials that we have. We're also a major highlight this year, in addition to seeking infrastructure funding and meetings with the Army Corps in particular and our delegation. In addition to that, we have some important meetings with FERC coming up, and Kelly's prepared the presentation for that. And so really kind of not formally kicking off the relicensing effort, which has already been underway. But this is the first, sit down with DC staff and the FERC commissioner, senior staff in DC to talk through the project and give them an update on where we are and what our strategy is for relicensing. So kind of the formal milestones are still a little ways out, but this is a significant milestone, I think, in its own right. So really looking forward to those meetings. And we went to, I don't know how this happened, but essentially all of Calaveras County is going to be in relicensing for the next 10 years. So get used to hearing about it. East Bay Muds project is in relicensing about 10 months ahead of ours. Project 137, PG&E's project at Tiger Creek on the Moke is also in relicensing around the same time, I think 2031 expiration date. And both the Bar Hydro projects on, at New Hogan and then on the Norfolk Stanislaus, the Utica projects, all of it relicensing within 2 years of each other.
CCWD is in there too.
Yeah, they're going through a different FERC process, but yeah, all of it happening around the same time. So it's going to be a lot of relicensing, a lot of those public meetings. So we went to East Bay Muds kickoff open house, they called it. It was really good to connect with their staff on this. We talked to their staff about other issues, on a regular basis, but we haven't really discussed relicensing with them yet. And so some of the same folks, and then met some new folks that are kind of leading their relicensing effort. And we, kind of informally agreed, hey, let's get together, quarterly or a couple times a year, whatever it is, and share stories about what you're going through and how you're doing it and how we're doing it and what we can learn from each other. The different issues and different approaches. They have salmon, we don't. They don't have federal lands, and we have lots. So those introduce, different agencies and different sets of issues and different sets of challenges. And so they also have a team of, 15 people that are able to dedicate their specialized expertise to that effort, in addition to a consultant team, and that doesn't exist here. So we're going to have to take a different approach to staffing it and navigating that process as we go through it. So we'll keep in touch with East Bay Mud on that front. Went to the emergency action plan seminar that NCPA held for our North Fork project, and just the annual update. So nothing
Where was that?
significant there at the NCPA office in Murphy's. But it's important for us to be a part of that process, but no major changes to the emergency action plan. Let's see, a couple of other items. Damon already mentioned the all employees meeting, which was really great. A lot of really great participation. In addition to the costume contest and the chili cook-off, we have to give kudos to the admin services staff for winning what did we call it? Decorate your workplace. The crew in the back, the engineering, HR staff did an awesome job of a kind of a spooky clown theme. Poor Becca had a knife in her head. The crew up front, though, came out ahead with a Pac-Man themed decoration of their space. So you walked in and you were like in the Pac-Man game. It was pretty
Oh,
awesome.
cool.
So just awesome to see that enthusiasm from staff and that participation in all these events. What makes it great. Just a quick mention of the real estate ad hoc committee has been meeting now. Where are we at? 7-8 months into what can only be up to a year. But a lot of positive progress from that group. So thank you, Director Ratterman and Director Thomas. The latest update is the Jenny Lind House upgrades or remodel are complete. When we've hired a property manager, and so it's just getting a final clean and some pictures taken, and it'll be on the market to get a tenant in there again.
Where are we? How many months are we in right now?
I want to say it was in the spring when we kicked that off. So
Because at our last meeting, we discussed that if we need to, because it's an ad hoc and it's not a permanent committee, if we don't get done,
Yeah.
we have a list of properties now that from our last meeting that Becca distributed. What we're looking for is to report out, make it an agenda item, to report out
sure.
that list and then corresponding efforts that went into it and what's the outcome.
Yeah, so we'll
But
bring that
and
back.
if that year comes up and we haven't got to that point yet, we're just going to rename the committee and make it a different ad hoc. We'll call it the property committee instead of the real estate committee.
No, the
And-
problem,
Well,
Maybe
we're
not,
doing
but
it
we-
right around the right act. But hold on, before we get too far into that, we're gonna make a lot more progress between now and then. We'll have a presentation to the board on what was done and then what future next steps can be, whether that's another committee effort or just pick a roadmap for staff to follow and report back to the whole board on what
Okay.
next steps need to be done. So yeah, I'm just giving a brief update that there's been a lot of progress with that group, and we'll have the house up for rent again. And
Well, I was going to just ask you if it was for rent or is that for sale?
Rent.
What kind of rent are you asking?
are you interested?
You looking for a place?
What is it, 28, 22, 2,200?
This is a rental we've had all along. We just had to.
Yeah, so it was rented
22?
for a while.
Three.
And then it kind of fell into disrepair and became a bit of a storage. Yes, various other uses. So it took some work. Hats off to Eric Martinez, our facilities maintenance tech. He did a lot of the work himself. We did, I think, all the work in-house. Had to fix up the septic system. So all the work in-house with the help of the Cal Fire crew to clean up it's got beautiful river frontage right on the Calaveras River.
So
That's what,
It's right next
that's
to the
what
Jenny
this
Lind Water.
agent is selling right
Yeah, this is an advertisement. Anyone watching and listening.
Yeah.
Call our realtor and give you
It is, it's the
How big
river
is it?
property manager. What's that?
How big is it?
Probably 1,400 feet.
It's small. It's not a big house.
got acreage.
But
But you've got
biggest-
acreage and riverfront.
It's got the biggest,
front,
the biggest oak tree in the front yard that I've ever seen.
it's got some massive oak trees, yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean,
So anyway.
seriously.
We will continue to report back from
And why?
the property committee. A lot of work on the Section 219 work effort, the Army Corps funding. That is going through another, what we call a letter report. It's the bureaucratic mechanism that the Army Corps uses. It's essentially the instruction manual. Once you receive the budget appropriation through Congress, the letter report, and then the Army Corps appropriates the funds through their work plan. The letter report is kind of the on the ground instruction manual for what how the project is going to move forward and how the money is going to be spent. So because we received the additional 11.2 million last year, we had to rewrite the letter report to include all of the funding, the full 13.2 million in federal funding that we've received. That is still a work in progress, but it has also kind of forced us to evaluate the project and make sure we're doing it in a way that is phased, so we get the most important aspects of it done with the funding that we have, and then we're still asking for more funding, which is big, probably our top priority next week as we go through DC. So
We're looking for another 3 point something. Is that where it is right?
3.1 million. Yeah.
We have to do that before Elon Musk does his investigation or what?
That's right.
Okay.
We'll try to get it through first. So in addition to that, we have the Mountain Counties Water Resource Association Forum on the 22nd. I encourage you to register and attend. Those are always good events. And in fact, Congressman McClintock will be one of the speakers there as well. The Aqua Conference is coming up the week after that. I think we have a little bit lighter attendance than normal, but we'll be well represented there as well. And the main item for admin services, I reported on this at our last meeting, but still just noses to the grindstone on the software implementation. Can't say enough about the work that they're doing up there. It's a tremendous dedicated effort in addition to the full-time jobs that they already had. Just an enormous effort for them to focus on this every day. Tyler's been in minute by minute working through it with us, in addition to Bailey, the consultant that we brought on board for this. Kelly's leading the team and leading the effort and doing a phenomenal job. And finance, we're in it, we're working with it. It's up and running with assistance from Tyler still as we go through it and make sure that it's doing what we need it to do. And then we're also 10 days into the payroll implementation as well. So that's been a huge lift for HR and finance staff. So just working through it. It'll be another month probably till we're through with the majority of the core financial implementation and the HR and purchasing modules. And so and then we'll still have some other items that have to be addressed early next year, but the bulk of it will be done. The heavy lift will be done. Hopefully by the time I report out to you at the next board meeting. There is Calaveras River Watershed Project. I want to mention that just briefly. We'll be down at Stockton East on Friday for a presentation from DWR staff. The Stockton East was awarded a grant to do flood kind of a deep evaluation of the Calaveras River, and it could potentially lead to reoperation of New Hogan or projects that stem from that for conjunctive use. It's been a couple of years now that DWR has been working on the modeling effort that is the main kind of technical work that has to get done, and they're presenting the outcome of that work to us in Stockton East mainly on Friday. So it'll be an interesting new development in that project, and I appreciate Stockton East really keeping us involved and making sure that we're active participants in that process. So we'll continue to be engaged on that front. And then we also have, just looking ahead a little bit, the groundwater sustainability plan update, which is a Sigma requirement for our critically overdrafted groundwater basin. It's the opposite of the snow pictures. We show the dry farmland in the western portion of the county, where our critically overdrafted basin is. The GSP update is due in January. The board will need to approve it before January. We submitted a comment letter on the draft with some questions and some clarifications and some recommendations, and we anticipate we have a positive response from staff on that, just to work with us and make sure that our comments are addressed. So I don't anticipate any major issues with the GSP update. We expect probably bringing it back to the board for adoption at the first meeting in January, and we're working with our GSA partners on that as well. I think that's it. I said I was going to be fast.
Yeah, no.
That was
That was it.
fast.
You weren't, Michael, you weren't quick.
No, I apologize.
So we all have to.
But we'll have to get you a teleprompter.
Or get you a cane.
A cane? Oh yeah. Could you give us an update on recruitment engineering and otherwise?
Apparently there are no unemployed engineers in the state of California. We have looked everywhere. I'm kind of kidding, but it is very difficult to hire engineers these days. And that's true. We've heard that from the private sector as well. The engineering firms that we work with on a regular basis are having a hard time filling their vacancies too. So we still have one vacant civil engineer position. And that has a trickle down effect on the rest of the department. And so the engineering staff have been very busy managing a lot of projects. We have a lot of projects, construction projects that are ongoing, and then others in the pipeline that are coming. A lot of planning and design work that's happening. So it's a lot for the engineering team, and we really need to fill that vacancy. But we have, it's been a challenge. So we have several other vacancies throughout the district right now. So we do have recruiting efforts underway on multiple fronts.
Okay. All right, going on to board reports. So can we start with you, Bertha?
Okay, you could start with me. I do want to, does everybody know I'm engaged? Yes. Okay.
You might have mentioned that, yeah.
Congratulations.
Several times, Bertha.
This is only November. But anyway, okay, we are all aware of the fact that Barbara Balin has bailed. Right?
No, what? She's off TUD or was it?
She moved.
She moved, she's Corvallis, Oregon.
Good for her.
Yeah, she built the house and
Good
moved
for her.
by
Oregon's pretty.
her family.
Corvallis
And
is
so
pretty.
last night was her yesterday was her last board meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry
So-
to miss that.
Yeah, we had talked, so I told her that I would be there. And so I went to say goodbye to Barbara.
Nice. I'm glad you were there.
Yeah. And I said, and I gave a little synopsis of our relationship with Barbara from CCWD. And then me personally, the fact that we had for how many years, 17 years, traveled together, to different meetings all over the place, and how much she gave to TUD, because she came from a Forest Service background to run as a director, and the wealth of knowledge that woman has is unbelievable. I can't believe how intelligent she is. Just knows everything. But anyway, so I was happy to be there and say goodbye. And so she says, well, feel free to leave at any time. And it just so happened they had an item, consider authorizing staff to research further the use of biochar processing. And I understand that Mr. Minkler has all the information we're going to need on biochar.
What a coincidence.
How about
that
this
we
guy right
have
here?
somebody here that knows a little bit about that.
Oh, yes, I am. It was fascinating.
I could fake it for a few minutes, but Greg is really the one you would want to talk to about that.
It was fascinating.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're going to be bringing it, they're going to look for grant funding, and they're going to be using T-stand to try to get money. And so that's where Kelly comes in, right? So it was, just a really educational.
Did you go to the
meeting.
TSAN meeting?
Pardon?
The IRWM meeting? Did you go there as well?
No,
Just last month?
no.
Oh.
So Kelly will represent us, when? Friday?
No, she was gonna go.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't
When's the
think,
next-
it'd be next month, probably the next T-stand meeting.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, so Michael, we're gonna be waiting to hear from you or.
Okay.
Or, Greg. Okay, yeah, because I'm really, up on that. So it was just a really educational meeting that I attended yesterday. So that was great.
Great.
Okay, and That's all. Ta-da.
Director Radaman.
Michael, you took everything that I was going to report on and reported on it, so I have nothing to say. Nothing further, no.
I don't know whether to say you're welcome or apologize.
No, thank you.
Well,
Thank you for reporting on
all the
everything
good
on my
stuff.
list.
Got it.
You don't want to give us any kind of a sneak preview of your presentation at Mountain Counties? Which, I mean, you're,
And no engagement announcements.
No,
okay.
no, I'm not engaged or anything. Nothing to report.
Oh,
All
okay,
right.
Russ, it's your
My
turn.
turn.
We don't know.
I could report on things you're engaged in. Go ahead.
I haven't really been doing a whole lot of anything, outside or with CCWD. I didn't realize what was going on last night till late, so I couldn't go. But, I do just want to confirm we're having a finance meeting next month on the 17th, the third Tuesday. That's probably good.
Well, wait a second. I have 19th down. Do we cancel that?
Well, the third Tuesday of December, whatever that is.
You mean, you're talking about November 19th.
Yeah.
Yeah, we canceled November. Yeah, so I'm kind of recapping for this month,
Oh,
because I think we're
okay.
pretty much done. We're going to do an external relations meeting, which is the 26th. We're going to do that. And the reason why I'm saying is my other statement is I want to wish everybody a wonderful holidays coming up pretty soon, all staff and everything, because I don't know if we're going to be back before Thanksgiving.
I don't think so. No, we
Yeah, so
canceled the.
happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I hope everybody and staff has a
Is
wonderful
Thanksgiving coming?
couple more weeks. Pretty soon. I don't think we'll have another meeting until after Thanksgiving.
No, right.
Or the 26th, just before.
No, it'll
External.
be,
Af-
no, we canceled the November one. So,
Right.
yeah, both finance and external relations would be.
Okay, so
December.
this is my one and only meeting for the month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you through?
I'm through. That's it. Just happy holidays
All right.
in December.
It was briefly mentioned before that there's a delegation from CCWD that will be headed to Washington DC next week to kind of check in to see about the availability of some, and not the availability, but the sequence of events that we can expect on getting money released from our grant proposals and the approved grants. And then after that, on the 2nd of December, some of us will be going to the Aqua meeting in, it's down near
Who's not
Paulsville.
going?
I'm going, Scott's going, he's,
You're going to go too.
will you be going,
Well, you need to be.
Bertha?
Okay, I'll report. I'm going to DC next week. I'm going to Aqua the following week. That's all I got to report.
Gotcha.
How many people are going to Washington?
Just
The
three of us.
yeah.
You, Russ, and Jeff?
No.
Scott's going instead.
Jeff has
Two directors and.
business obligations, so he can't get away.
Okay, so it's you
Me and
and you.
Scott, yeah. Is it, do you want to go instead? No? Okay. All right, but aside from that, that's all I have to report. Except that we're going into item number 7. Next board meetings are Wednesday, December the 11th. And are we actually, we're not going to meet on
We're
the,
canceling the 20th.
oh, the canceling. Okay, I was hoping we could meet on the 25th and share gifts or something, exchange gifts.
Well, I say we do that outside of here when we go out next dinner.
Okay. All right. Now we're going into closed session. We have 1, 2, 3 items that we have agency negotiators, General Manager Michael Minkler regarding negotiations with employee organization SEIU. Second thing is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, government code, Calaveras County Superior Court. And then 8C, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation. We'll go into closed session and come back to report any reportable actions. Any public comment on these closed session items? Okay, with no public comment, in view, let's, adjourn this portion of the meeting and go into closed session. Are we going to be here?